Isaiah chapter 11 we read. As a Jewish educator, I feel my need to bring something in. We read that there will be some sort of peace on earth when the wolf and the lamb really learn how to dwell together. But we see, we really, I think, are challenging Isaiah's assumptions here, because the wolf and the wolf don't really know how to dwell together, and neither do the lamb or the lamb. And so really thinking about how can we bridge these two different, we're all one people, but two different subsects of one particular community. And so we came up with this idea called Chevra. Chevra, which translates to, it's Hebrew slang for buddies or friends or even being a part of the gang. And so how can we're now strangers to one another. How can we turn from being strangers to really being people we can call on, friends, in the way that kind of we've been able to bond with Moshe and Moshe bond with us, and us bond with different people of different subsects? How can we sort of continue that dialogue? And so we came up with this idea, Chevra, and if you open your packet, really the idea is based off of that there are 1.7 million Jews in New York City, and 20% of them make up ultra-Orthodox community, and there are zero opportunities for real engagement, and so that's what we're hoping for. And so really it's the idea that our communities will be able to come together as young professionals to meet on a small scale. We're not thinking hundreds of people, we're thinking, how can we start with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people on a smaller scale to really build concrete relationships and talk about issues that matter to us. And we outlined some of those issues. Some potential topics for us for engagement include things like technology and its impact on ritual life, exploring the education system and their effects on different Jewish communities, anti-Semitism and its real effect on modern society, and the idea of how to foster Jewish peoplehood. Every session of Chevra begins with a foundational piece of Jewish text, because it's something that we all know. It's something that the ultra-Orthodox are reading and studying, and it's something that our people, more secular, have some sort of familiarity with. And the whole idea is that we take this piece of text and read it with a different eye towards whatever topic that we're speaking about, to then introduce that topic and then speak about it. And so based on whatever interest there is to you. So we hope that each member of the group at some point will be empowered to bring in a piece of text and then an idea that really sparks with them. I made one for me. I consult Jewish educators who are working with teens. And so for me, how building partnerships with our next generation, how do we do that? And so I brought in a Jewish text here, Ezer Kenegdo, which is a text that's not, and we read in Genesis, it's not good for man to be alone, and I'll make a helper. So what does it mean to be a helper? And how can we partner? And what does it mean to be a partner? And how might we partner with different groups? And then I brought in 2 different sort of texts, which are from a study of over 17,000 Jewish teens. One that shows that teens today don't identify with different denominations, which is really groundbreaking, because many of us, and this whole idea is based on that we're 2 different denominations that aren't intersecting. And the idea that some of the biggest struggles of the next generation today are things like managing anxiety or depression, and that's something that transcends religion, right? Something that we can all kind of grasp onto. So we hope that this sounds interesting to you, and I'm going to turn it over to Moshe to really explain why does this matter? What's the point?
Okay, so I'll give a little bit of a background how this kind of things work in Israel. I'm a little bit intimidated because Jeremy is here and he can say like it's not bad at all. But for many years the ultra-Orthodox and the secular Israelis did not have anything in common. And the idea where they came, and today there are many groups who, some of them are even funded by the UJA, who host like events or mutual, like, they go to Bnei Brak for a chont, and then I don't know what they do in Tel Aviv. The importance over there, it is because the secular people, more than the Haredi, understand that in order for Israel to be successful and to be a Jewish and democratic country, the ultra-Orthodox have to, number one, be part of the Israeli society, be more in the workforce, and even like in the IDF. But above all, it's just, people to people, instead of having like a total 2 nations in one state. So this is why people and the Israeli government in Israel understand the importance, why American funders would fund these projects in Israel. In America, there's no threat, how some would call it, in Israel, because some Haredi people who are not educated or not as much as involved in the workforce as they should. And for example, they're on social services. They're not a burden on the Jewish community over here, like some would say in Israel. Or for example, when it comes to certain laws, and although there might be Haredi people in the assembly or in the, but they don't have as much power, and they're not trying to enforce the whole New York society, their way of living, while it's otherwise in Israel. So this is the reason why no one sees the importance of coming together, the Haredi community over here with the secular Jewish community. Now, this was kind of correct until, I would say, the recent years, when the Haredi community was a very small minority of the Jewish world in America. However, today it's the fastest growing Jewish community, and you know, they're more out there. There's more Hasidic people on the internet or in business or in many other fields, and the opportunity is right here. I think that there are a lot of young professionals from the Hasidic community who would be wonderful candidates to be involved in the UJA and the AJC and other, you know, Israel or Jewish-related organizations. And I think that it would be more successful than in Israel. It's because it doesn't come from a threat. It's not a must. This is something that's just enjoyable for everyone. I remember when I started first, I went to Drisha for the first time. There was secular, reform, conservative, modern Orthodox all at once. Yeah, she was there. We did it together 4 years ago, exactly. And was I craziest then? And I remember that, you know, they started reading the text, and I was so amazed because the way I was taught, and I always learned, you know, the Chumash was, you know, pretty much in a way of history, or like, don't do or do. And then it's kind of like you take just like one verse and you take out of it ideas. What would you do in such a case? What is the leadership of Moses? Like, I'm like, wow, this is a new Jewish world that I've never seen. And I think this is the best way to start, you know, such events. And as well, talking about current events, like if we elect a Jewish president, how would it affect? You know, it's interesting to hear, you know, other sides. And I think that slowly but surely, it could be a pilot program for something that could be successful and implemented in many different communities.